Chili Cookoff at 1601 South Lamar. As I hear all of the chatter at the various tables, it would appear that some people have already tasted on more than one helping. Fire in the hole. Fire in the hole. Slap your mama. I just looked at the names of the chili as I went down the line. Delighted to see you all here. And I always say that it seems as though food has a way of gathering all of my colleagues in this building. And when there's food, you seem to enjoy yourselves. Are you enjoying yourself? Yes. Why don't you commend the planners for this event? When I came down here, Brenda says, "Now, are you ready to speak to the group?" I said, "Yes." I'll stand up and say, "Welcome," and I'll sit back down. She said, "Oh, no, you can't do that. You have to do more than that." Well, what I'm going to do is, as I drive around the city, and I do quite a bit of that, I listen to CDs in my car. And there is a CD that some people in this room may be familiar with. The person who sings, his name is Lee Williams with the Highway QCs. And one of the songs on the track is "May I Tell You a Story." So may I tell you a story? Yes. All right, well, this is a story that you're going to read this story in my holiday message to the entire district. But I'm going to abstract it for you now. The story is told about a man who is a mechanic, and this is Christmas Eve, and it is snowing outside. His name is George, and George is at a point in his life where he does not celebrate Christmas, and he makes no bones in telling people that he does not believe in celebrating Christmas. So as he is sitting in his shop, a homeless man comes in, and the homeless man asks him for something to drink. So old George tells him, "Oh, sit down." He said, "I have a pot of coffee on the stove. Why don't you get a cup? It'll warm your belly and make you feel good." And the homeless man did pick up a cup and filled it with coffee. And as they were about to sit down, a young man rushed into old George's shop. He was almost in tears. He indicated that he, his wife, and his little baby were on a trip, and their car had broken down. Because of the bad weather, he needed some help. Well, George told him that his shop was closed, but he would take a look at this car to see if it could be fixed. The young man says, "I think I have broken the block under the hood, and my car won't run." So George went out and looked at it and saw that it truly was in a mess. So he says, "Come in and sit down." He says, "I have an old truck in my back garage. If you want it, I'll let you use it, and you can go on your trip." So old George went out and pulled out the truck, and it appeared to be in running order. And as he was looking around, he saw his wife's old Lincoln. His wife had died. And he said, "Well, I'll take these tires off the old Lincoln and put it on the truck so they can at least travel safely." The young man thanked him profusely when he gave him the truck with the tires and a tank full of gas. And off they went. And then all of a sudden, a young man burst into George's shop with a gun in his hand and says, "Stick him up. Give me all the money that you have. Well, George told the boy, he said, look, put the gun away. You don't need to do that. I have a little money in my pocket. I'll give it to you, and you can go on your way. The boy broke down and started crying. And he said to old George, you know, I really haven't done this before. I've never robbed anybody, but I have a wife and a baby. I have lost my job, and I don't have any way to get a Christmas gift for them. George says, put the gun down. I have $150 in my pocket. You can take this and go on your way. The young boy sat down, and while he was sitting down, George looked into a drawer and saw his departed wife's ring that she had left for him. So he took it out. He says, here, young boy, here's something for your wife. Take it. And then George rummaged around and looked at an old box, and there were a couple of toys that he found. He pulled them out and gave it to the boy and says, look, take this and go on your way. While they were sitting there, all of a sudden they heard some sirens from a police car. And it developed that this boy had shot a policeman, and now they were coming to see if they could find who the perpetrator was. George sat there with this boy, and the boy began to tell him that I was the individual who shot the policeman. I really didn't mean to do it, but I was just trying to get something for my wife and my baby. The shot policeman was lying in the street. The two of them went out and picked him up, brought him in. George looked at the wound and saw that it was something a little bit more than a flesh wound. So he bandaged it up a little bit because he used to be a medic in the Army. And while they were sitting there, in come the two policemen, wanting to know if they had seen the person who had shot the policeman. And to their utter surprise, the policeman's utter surprise, the policeman says, you know, I don't know who shot me. I think he got away. The policeman asked this boy, well, now, what are you doing here? And George said, well, I just hired him. He's going to start work with me tomorrow. Well, the policeman said, okay, we'll go on and look for the perpetrator. After they left, the boy asked George, why did you do all of these things for me? Why did you give me the ring left by your wife? Why did you do these things to take out some toys for my kid? And then he also says, why did you all not tell the policeman the truth? Well, both George and the policeman said to the boy, there comes a time in your life when you just need to be kind to someone else. So George said to the boy, now, you have $150, you have a ring for your wife, you have some toys for your baby. Tomorrow is Christmas, and the shop is not open tomorrow, but the day after Christmas, I want you here working in my shop. And the boy left smiling. And then this person who had been the homeless man came back in. And this time when he came back in, he did not have on the raggedy clothes of a homeless person. This time he seemed to have on a very white, bright, shiny robe. And something marvelous happened to George when he reflected on all that had transpired, and when he reflected on this person that he thought was homeless came back in a different garb. And George said to himself, well, maybe there is something about this thing called celebrating Christmas. Well, I abstract that story for you because there is something marvelous about this thing called Christmas. It's not just a time for getting gifts that you really don't need. It is more a time for just sharing some of the blessings that you have received with someone else. The blessings may be shared with a family member, but sometimes those blessings can be shared with others who have a need that is greater than yours. And I thought about this when I saw the toy boxes on the various floors in this building. It tells me that here is a community of individuals who believe that to whom much is given, much is required. You have my very deep and best wishes for a joyous, prosperous, and healthy holiday season, one and all.